morning, ladies and gentlemen. From the flight deck, your captain speaking. Welcome aboard Community Covenant Airways, non-stop service to Rockland Regional. Flying time today scheduled at 1 hour and 5 minutes from takeoff to touchdown, assuming the pastor does not get long-winded. Route of flight today is going to take us along the biblical character range. Along the way, we'll try and highlight one of the characters for you. To help you out with that, there are some resources on our webpage I'd encourage you to download now before we leave the gate, as our in-flight Wi-Fi can be just a little spotty. There's sermon notes on there and activities for kids. During the flight today, you might decide you'd like something warm to drink and a cinnamon roll. Unfortunately, we are not allowed to serve anything of the sort these days. So here's hoping you brought your own. On arrival, you can expect an offering, a ministry moment, and a benediction. Our parking gate today is normally on Topaz Avenue, but it's undergoing renovations right now, so we will all be parking remotely. On behalf of the handful of staff and dozens of volunteers here at Community Covenant Airways, we'd like to thank you for coming along with us today. We invite you now to sit back, relax, and enjoy the flight.
Hopefully, you've got your unlit candle and a lighter or a match. As we've been doing since we started Church at Home many, many months ago, we light the candle to remind us and have it be a physical representation of the reality that Christ is present. We might be physically isolated, we might be physically apart, but spiritually we are never alone. Jesus is present right now with you wherever you are. And so we light the candles to remind us of this and have it be a physical representation of this awesome truth. Would you take a moment right now just to reflect on the reality that, yes, Jesus is with you right now. And now let us light our candles to remind us of the glorious truth that Christ is present with us right now. And with our candles lit, let us worship through music.
Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty. Early in the morning, a song shall rise to thee. Holy, 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 merciful and mighty, God in three persons, blessed Trinity. Holy, holy, all the saints adore thee, casting down their golden crowns around the glassy sea. Cherubim and seraphim, falling down before thee, which word and are that evermore shall be. From the cradle to the cross, God with us, God with us, for this broken world you love. God with us, God with us, you gave up your only Son. God with us, God with us, so that all the Your love is like radiant diamonds bursting inside us. We cannot contain. Your love will surely come find us like blazing wildfires, singing your name. God of mercy, sweet love of mine, I have surrendered to your design. May this offering stretch across the skies, these hallelujahs be multiplied. Your love is like radiant diamonds bursting inside us. We cannot contain. Your love will surely come find us like blazing wildfire, singing your name. God of mercy, sweet love of mine, I have surrendered to your design. May this offering stretch across the skies, these hallelujahs be multiplied. God of mercy, sweet love of mine, I have surrendered to your design. May this offering stretch across the skies, these hallelujahs be multiplied. These hallelujahs be multiplied.
We are in the final week of our series going through the book of Isaiah. Some of you have actually read all 66 chapters during the last 7 weeks. Well done. Now, on Sundays, we started out with an overview of the book of Isaiah. That was followed by Isaiah chapter 6. And then for the last 4 weeks, we've looked at a different word or theme. We did rebellion, forgiveness, justice. Last week was strength. This week, Messiah. Now, the word Messiah literally means the anointed one. The anointed one. Now, here's the thing. The people during Isaiah's time, they didn't know who the Messiah would be. We do. We have a name, and the name of the Messiah is Jesus. Now, when Isaiah is writing this, it's 700 years before the birth of Jesus. But what's amazing is 700 years before, we find Isaiah talking about the Messiah. Now, here's an interesting thing. The word Messiah doesn't actually show up in the book of Isaiah. In fact, if you've been reading through, you might be going, wait a second, I've read all 66 chapters. I don't remember Isaiah talking about the Messiah. He does not use this word ever. But Isaiah refers to the Messiah repeatedly. Take a look. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son and will call him Emmanuel. The people walking in darkness have seen a great light. On those living in the land of deep darkness, a light has dawned. For to us a child is born. Remember, this is 700 years before the birth of Jesus. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Of the greatness of his government and peace, there will be no end. He will reign on David's throne and over his kingdom, establishing and upholding it with justice, mishpah, and righteousness from that time on and forever. The zeal of the Lord Almighty will accomplish this. Or consider the entire chapter 53. Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him like a tender shoot, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him. Nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by mankind. Despised and rejected by humankind. A man of suffering and familiar with pain. Like one from whom people hide their faces, he was despised, and we held him in low esteem. Surely he took up our pain and bore our suffering. Yet we considered him punished by God, stricken by him and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him, and by his wounds we are healed. We all, like sheep, have gone astray. Each of us has turned to our own way, and the Lord has laid on him the iniquity of us all. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearer is silent, so he did not open his mouth. By oppression and judgment he was taken away. Yet who of his generation protested? For he was cut off from the land of the living. For the transgression of my people he was punished. He was assigned a grave with the wicked, and with the rich in his death, though he had done no violence, nor was any deceit in his mouth. Yet it was the Lord's will to crush him and cause him to suffer. And though the Lord makes his life an offering for sin, he will see his offspring and prolong his days, and the will of the Lord will prosper in his hand. After he has suffered, he will see the light of life and be satisfied. By his knowledge, my righteous servant will justify many, and he will bear their iniquities. Therefore, I will give him a portion among the great, and he will divide the spoils with the strong, because he poured out his life unto death and was numbered with the transgressors. For he bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. Now, obviously, I can't see into your home right now, and I can't hear what's going on in your home right now. But I'm going to go out on a limb and say that in response to everything I just read, you are right now not jumping up and down, yelling and celebrating and everything like that. You're probably just sitting there. Years ago, when I was doing youth ministry, I would every 3 years tell a huge lie to the youth group. Now I know we're not supposed to lie, but bear with me here. We would do it every 3 years because we had to wait for the 6th graders to become high schoolers so we could do the lie again. Here's what we did. It would be in December, and we'd publicize the night as kind of, hey, Christmas game night. And so we'd get like 100 kids to come to this Christmas game night. And before they got there, I'd bring all of my volunteers together. I go, listen, here's what we're going to do. And I'd give them the plan. And they were in. They were going to be part of the conspiracy. So all the kids come in, and I was like, okay, tonight is Christmas game night, but it might not be Christmas game night. There might be a change that takes place, but I don't want to tell you what might change, because I don't want to jinx it, because I really hope it happens. And plus, if I told you it was going to happen and then it didn't happen, you'd be all disappointed. So we're just going to go ahead with Christmas game night, and if something changes, I'll let you know, and we'll just change what we're doing. Okay, so, hey, let's start with Christmas game night. And so we'd start, and the kids are all kind of like, what's Mike talking about? And then I at some point, I would look at one of my volunteers and go like this. This was before everybody had cell phones, because I'm old. But and one of my volunteers would go, and he'd run out the back, and he'd come back in and go, and then one of the other volunteers would come up to me and go, and I'd go, I don't know. And then a couple minutes later, I'd go, and one of my volunteers would run out, they'd come back in. And meanwhile, we're playing these games, but the kids are starting to go, what's going on? And they start asking me or one of the other, hey, what's going on? I can't tell you, I don't want to jinx it, but I'd do this again. One of my volunteers would run out, he'd come back in. This would go on for about 40 minutes. We're playing games, but the staff is completely distracted. I keep on, checking my watch, sending out another person to go make a phone call. Then all of a sudden, after about 40 minutes, one of my volunteers comes in and goes, and we'd be in the middle of a game, and I go, okay, wait, cut the music, everybody, sit down. And all the kids are like, what's going on? And I go, okay. This last summer, my family was up in the Bay Area. I was telling this while we were living in Southern California. We were living in Ventura at the time. And I go, this last summer, my family was up in the Bay Area. It's where we grew up. And we went to Pier 39. It's this touristy place to go, but we went to Pier 39. And I'm in line to get into this thing, and the person in front of me is really big. I mean, I'm 6'2", but this guy made me look small, and he looks a little familiar as somebody can be from behind, And so I'm sitting there, and I start to do this, I just didn't want to be that guy, but I was really curious if this was somebody famous. And I'm like, and from the side, it totally looked like someone famous. And what do I do? So finally, I became that guy. And I tapped him on his shoulder, and he turned and looked down at me, and sure enough, it was him. And I go, you are? And he goes, yeah, I am. And we just struck up a conversation. Totally nice guy. And then, I can't believe I did this. We were about ready to go in, and I can't believe I did this, but I went, if you're ever in Ventura on a Wednesday night, I'd love to have you come to youth group. And I gave him my card. Who does this? I do this, apparently. Well, I never expect to hear from this guy again, but this afternoon, he called me. Apparently, he kept my card. He called me, and he said, hey, I'm at a fundraising event up in Santa Barbara. I'm going to be driving back down to my house down in LA. I might be coming through while you're having youth group. That would be awesome. And so we weren't sure if it was going to work out with traffic and everything. Well, it worked out. And so everyone, the former point guard of the Los Angeles Lakers, future Hall of Famer, Mr. Earvin Magic Johnson. Back door opens up, every head turned around, and suddenly there was no air in the room because everybody went, except for one girl who went, ah! Back doors open, and and one of my volunteers walks in. And they're like, I said, well, okay, here's the deal, you guys. I just told you a giant lie. Magic Johnson is not coming to youth group tonight. But here's the deal. We would have been amazed if Magic Johnson would have come to youth group. But we never really get amazed at the fact that God came to earth. Have we become so familiar with Christmas that we cease to be amazed? Chances are we're not that different from those junior hires that I told that giant lie to all those years ago. Because I read all those verses and our response was, yeah, whatever. Why is it that we're potentially more amazed or would be more excited if a celebrity came than we are about the fact that Jesus actually came? Maybe we overestimate the importance of celebrities and we have undervalued the importance of the Messiah. Maybe we've forgotten how amazing it really is. Look at one of the verses that we read just a few moments ago. Therefore, the Lord himself will give you a sign. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and he will be called Emmanuel. Okay, now. Beyond the biology of all of this. I mean, if the verse only said, the virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, if that's all the verse said, it would be pretty remarkable. I know how the biology works. And if a virgin ends up pregnant and gives birth to a son, that falls into the miracle category. And at the very least, we'd look at that kid and go, oh, something amazing is happening here. But the verse doesn't end there because it goes on and says, and we'll call him Emmanuel. Now, the word Emmanuel literally means God with us, which is a giant thing for the people of Isaiah's day. The people Isaiah's writing to have been suffering greatly. Now, you might be thinking, well, we're suffering greatly right now too. No. Compared to what they were going through, we're having a day at the spa. I mean, we're inconvenienced. They were conquered. Twice, they were ripped from their families. They were sent into exile. Their homes destroyed, family and friends killed. They felt defeated. They felt abandoned. They felt like they were all alone. But then God says, the virgin will conceive and give birth to a son and call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. He's saying you are not going to be abandoned. So do not fear, for I am with you. And do not be dismayed, for I am your God. And I will help you. I will not abandon you. And what God is saying here is our relationship has been fractured, but the mending of this relationship isn't going to start with what you do. It's going to start with what I do. Emmanuel, I'm coming to where you are. As Brennan Manning said it, come now, wounded, frightened, angry, lonely, empty, and I'll meet you where you live. And I'll love you as you are, not as you should be. The thought of a famous athlete possibly walking through our back door would cause us to gasp. But the reality, not just the possibility, Not the possibility that a celebrity will show up at your house, but the reality that God came to us. Emmanuel, God with us. That reality should cause us to leap for joy and fall down on our knees in humble adoration all at the same time. And you might be thinking, Mike, that's just not possible. It's not possible to leap for joy and fall down on our knees all at the same time. I know. But that is how amazing this good news is. You can have the celebrity. I'll take Emmanuel. Or consider what else it says in Isaiah 9. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor. He will be called Wonderful Counselor. I was reading an article recently about this idea of Wonderful Counselor, and it said this, that Isaiah calls the Messiah the Wonderful Counselor indicates the kind of character this coming king has. The word wonderful in this passage literally means incomprehensible. So if you're taking notes at home, wonderful equals incomprehensible. Incomprehensible. I don't have enough words to adequately describe this counselor. Oh, there aren't enough words in my thesaurus or my dictionary to do it, because his wonderfulness means he is incomprehensible. The article goes on and says, Jesus is wonderful in a way that is boggling to the mind. Article goes on and says, the second part of the Messiah's title is the word counselor. In ancient Israel, a counselor was portrayed as a wise king, such as Solomon giving guidance to his people. So when you hear counselor, you don't think, lie down on the couch, tell me about your mother, how does that make you feel? No, counselor equals wise king. So when it says wonderful counselor, this is what it's talking about. That the child that we celebrate at Christmas is a king that leads with goodness that boggles the mind. That's who we're talking about in this verse. The wonderful counselor, a king that leads with a goodness that boggles the mind. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Wise King, Mighty God. If you were to add up all the things that you are struggling with right now, all the difficulties, the sadness, the grief, if you were to add all of that up, I'm not saying that what you're going through isn't hard, but the reality is, if you added up all that stuff, it would come nowhere close to being as big as God. In fact, if you took all the difficulty, all the struggle in all of the world, added that all up, God would still be greater. I love how Josh McDowell reflected on this. He said, my joy in life is not because I have not had any problems. I have joy because I have learned that there is nothing too great for God's power to deal with, nor anything too small or insignificant for his love to be concerned about. Oh, when you think about God being the mighty God, we need to look at it through this lens and go, wait, there's nothing that's too great for him to deal with. And there's nothing too small or insignificant that he's not concerned over. He is the mighty God. For to us a child is born, and to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders. And he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, and Everlasting Father. Father language, father imagery in the Bible is complicated. My mom left when I was about 5 years old. She left me and my brother and my dad, which meant that I was raised by my father. And I'm very glad because my dad and I have a wonderful relationship. And I'm very thankful that he's the one that raised me. And so when I see father language in the Bible, it resonates with me. It makes sense. If you would have asked me when I was younger how I understood what love is, I would have said love is showing up. Love is never leaving. And so I understood my dad loved me because he showed up. He didn't leave. He didn't abandon me. But I also recognize that not everyone's father story is like mine. Chances are there's people watching right now that fathers did abandon. Fathers did cause pain. They didn't have a good relationship with their father. And so you see the language of God being described as a father, and you go, oh, that's hard for me to embrace. But here's the thing. We make a mistake if we compare our understanding of our earthly fathers with God the Father, because he's not just a father, he's the everlasting Father. It means that he will never abandon. He will always show up. And his love for you and for me is both powerful and tender. John Sawyer writes it this way, describing his love as an unfailing source of protection and love. The everlasting Father is a father that is a source of unfailing protection and love. For to us a child is born, to us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and he will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and finally, Prince of Peace. This is another place that our English language doesn't help us a lot, because we read that word there, peace, and we tend to think of peace as being that the violence has stopped. And don't get me wrong, that's a part of what peace is, but peace is more than the ending of violence. Peace is taken from the Hebrew word here, shalom, which actually talks about wholeness. So peace is not simply that violence has stopped. Peace is making that which was broken whole again. Some of you have heard me tell this story when I was in high school playing in the championship football game, going out for a pass. Oh, it was so close. And I had it on my fingertips until I got just destroyed by the free safety from Kennedy High School in Richmond. He lit me up. I hit the ground and he got on top of me and he goes, get up, get up. And I tried. And most of me wanted to, except for this side of me stayed on the ground. The reason this part of me was just going to stay on the ground is because a collarbone is supposed to look like this. But when I got hit by him, my collarbone went from this to that. Oh. Now, if somebody would have come up to me in the minute after that happened and said, Mike, good news, your collarbone is at peace because the violence has ceased. That opposing team's player is no longer hitting you. He's not continuing to put his helmet into your collarbone. The violence has stopped. You are at peace. I would have looked at them and said, you are crazy. Yes, I'm very thankful that he is no longer hitting me, but my collarbone did not know peace until it was made whole, until it was healed. The Prince of Peace is about bringing shalom, bringing wholeness to that which was fractured. And among the things that are fractured is our relationship with God. It's not because of him, it's because of us, because of our sin. Our sin has fractured the relationship. But we see in Isaiah 53 that God goes to great lengths to make sure that this relationship is restored. Just take a look at the words in Isaiah 53. Words that should apply to us. Despised, rejected, suffering, pain, low esteem, punished, stricken, afflicted, pierced, crushed, punishment, wounds, iniquity, oppressed, afflicted, oppression, judgment, cut off, punished, death, crush, suffer. These are the words that we deserve. These are the words that I just highlighted are the words that we deserve because of our sin. But because the Messiah took all of those words upon himself, because the Messiah took those words on himself, we end up receiving these words: peace, wholeness, healed, prolong, prosper, satisfied, life. Because of what Christ has done, because of what the Messiah has done, these are the words that we get. If the possibility of a famous athlete or a famous celebrity walking through your back door causes you to gasp, then the reality, not just the possibility, but the reality that the God that is called Emmanuel, God with us, that the God that is the wonderful counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, that's who has shown up for us. And if a celebrity makes you gasp, then the fact that Emmanuel is here should cause us again to leap for joy, shout for joy, and drop on our knees in humble adoration all at the same time. I have had the opportunity to play against 3 NBA basketball players. And I've had the opportunity to play in 3 different NBA arenas. But if I was given the choice of being on the court again with a professional basketball player, or to be in relationship with the wonderful counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace, I'll take Emmanuel every time. Social distancing and other precautions during this COVID season is obviously making this year's holidays very different. And if I'm being honest, I'm saddened by the fact that I'm not going to be able to celebrate as I have previously celebrated. But here's the thing. Perhaps the change that's going to happen to how we do holidays this year, perhaps that change is not an altogether bad thing. After all, our previous celebrations have resulted in us becoming increasingly underwhelmed by the reality that Jesus came. The way that we did Christmas in the past didn't seem to present us from becoming increasingly nonchalant about the fact that the virgin will conceive and give birth to a son and will call him Emmanuel. The way that we have celebrated Christmas apparently hasn't prevented us from becoming nonchalant about, for unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulders, and his name will be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. Yeah, we're doing Christmas different this year, obviously. But it might be just what the doctor ordered. Because how we've been doing it hasn't made us leap for joy when we hear these words. Back in August, we started talking about what are we going to do for Advent this year. This was before we ever knew that we'd be slipping back into the purple tier and we wouldn't be able to do services indoors. Seriously, in August, we were talking about doing something radically different. Next Sunday, we start our Advent series, The Light Shines in the Darkness. And the way we're doing it, we're going to continue to provide a church at home option. But here's where it gets crazy. Every Sunday evening, starting next week at 5 p.m., we're doing church in the parking lot. And it might be just what the doctor ordered. Let me show you what it's going to look like.
I can't begin to tell you how excited I am about doing church in the parking lot this week. We're going to be transforming the parking lot into our sanctuary. Now you might be thinking, wait, 5 o'clock at night? Is it going to be cold? Well, it might. Get bundled up. In fact, if you're one of the people volunteering, how cool are these new Community Covenant Church beanies? Come bundled up. It'll work great. But wait, there's more. Because this area right over here, we're building a stage. It's 3 feet off the ground. It's got a canopy on it. It'll be well lit. There's a portable sound system. There are 2 different places you can sit. Option number 1 is going to be right here. For the people here, it's bring your own chair. Bring your own chair. Bring a mask. You just gotta set up all around here. You'll be able to see really well. You'll be able to hear just fine. But for those of you who go, that just doesn't sound real comfortable to be sitting outside in the elements. Well, takes us to option number 2. You could just sit in your car. From where I am, I can see the stage just fine. And you have 2 ways of hearing what's going on. You could roll your window down, hear through the portable speakers, or, and how cool is this, we have a transmitter. You can hear everything through your radio. You just turn your radio on, it sounds great. So even if it's raining, you can come and be in your car, see everything just fine, listen to it on your radio, and be part of the parking lot sanctuary. When you pull in next Sunday night, 2 options. If you're going to stay in your car, someone will direct you to go right over that way. They'll show you which parking spot to take. If you're planning on sitting outside, you'll come in and park down that way, walk through a check-in area, you get your temperature taken, make sure you have a mask, sign you in, and you find your spot. Remember, the theme is the light shines in the darkness. Why, we're doing it at 5 p.m. It'll be getting dark. But it won't be getting too dark because we're lighting up the parking lot. The trees around the parking lot will be filled with lights. And this light post is going to be turned into a 50-foot Christmas tree of light. We also have a new nativity set that one of the small groups has painted that'll all be lit up as well. I hope you can see how exciting it's going to be for us to be able to get more and more of us together for the first time since literally Easter to come and celebrate in this sanctuary, previously known as a parking lot, as we celebrate that the light shines in the darkness and the darkness has not overcome it.
Steeped in darkness, might and sin, the world grew weary, hope was dim. Fading hope and human wisdom proved folly as hearts longed for the day when light would come and the child would be born. Dawn is breaking, hope arrives, and darkness turns to light. Wonderful Counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, Israel's strength and consolation, hope of all the earth He is. the desire of every nation, joy of every longing heart. Wonderful Counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, you're glorious. Wonderful Counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Born a babe, small and humble, born a child and yet a king, born to reign with godly wisdom. Hallelujah, Jesus' name. Wonderful Counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, you're glorious. Wonderful Counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. From the darkness and light has dawned, for to us a child is born, Emmanuel, God with us. From the darkness and light has dawned, for to us a child is born, Emmanuel, God with us. Wonderful Counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Yeah, wonderful Counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace, the glorious, wonderful Counselor, mighty God, everlasting Father, Prince of Peace.
Hey, we now come to the part of the service where we give and receive the morning offering. And I recognize during this season of social distancing, it's more challenging. But one, for those of you that have continued to give, thank you. Thank you. And for those of you that it's been a struggle, let me encourage you. Take advantage of the ways that we provide to give during this season. You can text 84321, enter the amount, send. Take advantage of online giving, or come by the office, drop it off, or mail it in. We encourage giving not just so we can make budget, although that's part of it. We give it because we feel like it's the best way to live. It's an important part of discipleship. Tithing for us is a combination of obedience and generosity. Those are characteristics that we want to continue to develop as individuals and as a church family. So please take advantage of this opportunity. Hey, we can't wait for next Sunday. Now, before next Sunday, hope you're able to take advantage of Thursday and that your Thanksgiving, although probably different than previous Thanksgiving, will give you the opportunity and space to be thankful. Thankful for all that God has done and continues to do in and through you. So enjoy your Thursday, and then on Sunday, hey, if you want to stay home, we understand, but boy, we can't wait to have everybody, as many people as possible, gathered in the parking lot where we can sing at the top of our lungs as a large group for the first time since we were preparing for Easter. So I'd love to see you on Wednesday or on Sunday, 5 o'clock out in the parking lot. Now, would you please stand for the benediction? As you go, may the words of Isaiah continue to convict and encourage you. May the words of Isaiah, words of judgment and hope, continue to make that long distance journey from your head to your heart, and from your heart to your hands and feet. And may the good news that a child has been born, and he is the wonderful counselor, the mighty God, the everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace, Emmanuel, may that truth cause you this week to celebrate, to shout for joy, leaping up and down and falling on your knees in humble adoration all at the same time. Amen and amen.